Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Targeting series, the Video Game Trap House, where we go over the Ron Jeremy of FPGA Gaming, Alejandro, and the SuperSega FPGA project, because Alejandro has gone missing again. This is the second time now he's fallen off the face of the earth. The first time we showed you a video where he said he was in the hospital recovering from an illness, and it basically seemed like when you call into your boss on a Friday and say, cough cough, I just can't come in today boss, I feel like crap. And this has been an absolutely wild ride. I'm going to recap it for everyone today, where we started and where we are right now, so you guys know what's going on with SuperSega FPGA and where I think it's going to go. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. And give me those Patreon dollars so I can buy more SuperSega FPGA pre-orders so I can get scammed out of even more money. All jokes aside, I gave them absolutely $0 because I told you in the beginning, the Ron Jeremy of FPGA scamming, the Salvador Dali of just straight up horseshit, the Todd Rogers of video games was not going to deliver anything to you. But there was a long bit of time before Alejandro rolled up in the orange Lambo, forgot how to drive it, and opened the door into another parked car. There was a lot of details that came before that, before this basically became a gigantic joke. Even if we knew when we saw the PCB and some of the details, things made no sense. But one day, unannounced and unsolicited, I received an email from SuperSega FPGA with a PDF document inside of it detailing what their new FPGA console was going to be. I went over all of the details, talked about all of the different architectures of Dreamcast, and basically said that the only thing they had shown so far was a PDF document that raised more questions than it actually provided answers, because the Dreamcast era hardware, including Naomi here just for fun shots, is relatively complicated, and the fact that a newcomer was claiming that they had an FPGA core that was working for Dreamcast seemed very suspicious, including the fact that they stated they had an optical drive that could read GD-ROM disks, which is a very difficult thing to do. Only a few units on the market today that are used can do it. That's only after you flash their firmware to be able to actually function that way. So that was definitely the first red flag, but because they were just a PDF, we didn't really discuss how much of a scam this seemed right off the top, because it was one of those things, it was only a document, and a lot of people did not like the physical design of the Super Sega console, and that made total sense. Definitely looks like something that no one had ever seen the inside of a classroom for when it came to 3D modeling. But the first dead giveaway, and we talked about this in the initial video, and the thing that really made me and other people who knew what they were looking at suspicious was when they said true FPGA logic and showed an FPGA board in the actual PDF. Well, that was a Vertex UltraScale Plus development kit from AMD, and the retail price and what they were showing the FPGA board to be on Super Sega was just shy of $20,000 US, basically a late model used Honda Civic expense. And of course, Alejandro also put a photo of himself in a plane here just to try to convince you he was a very trustworthy person. Clean cut, short hair Alejandro indeed. And that's not the Alejandro we found that was behind this project. It is the dancing fool right here with his mustache and tuxedo on, just basically making an absolute fool out of himself for attention. And trust me, old Ron Jeremy here loves the spotlight. He wants that attention, even if he's claiming poverty because Sega sued him, which the lawsuit magically disappeared and we'll get into in just a bit. But he has sent so many clips around trying to explain so many things, but my absolute all-time favorite has got to be the following, and trust me, if you haven't seen it, you're in for a ride.
Me boya! Nice fucking model!
Yep, that's just Alejandro torquing his pipe like a lonely man on a Friday night, but we're jumping ahead a little bit for fun. The first sample that SuperSega FPGA showed of what they claimed was a Dreamcast FPGA core was when the warning lights really started going off, because we hadn't seen the PCB by this point in time. And while there's nothing quote-unquote wrong with the footage here, it's actually what's right with it that really ended up setting a lot of red flags off as far as people who know how this works are concerned. An in-development FPGA core never runs perfectly with perfect graphics, just at a lower frame rate. Right now, one person in the MiSTer FPGA ecosphere is just playing around with Dreamcast FPGA coding just for fun, and the graphics it shows right now in progress look absolutely mangled. They do not resemble much of a real Dreamcast game. So when they were showing us all of this footage and claiming it was running off an FPGA core Dreamcast, we knew right off the top that just wasn't true whatsoever. And again, with the claim that they were reading GD-ROM disks on the Super Sega FPGA, none of the actual technical information held up to any sort of scrutiny whatsoever. But at this point in time, we haven't actually seen the PCB. We're just going over these videos, and we basically said that something doesn't add up, but until we actually see the hardware, it's going to be very difficult to ascertain exactly what's going on. Then they uploaded this proof of concept of just some cart readers, a couple dudes in the frame frame, Alejandro here in what I think was a Lambo hat, showing nothing but a cart reader. This is a part you could buy online for about $2, and I could sketch out what that quote-unquote schematic was in about 50 seconds if you give me a pen. And then Ian Lee was able to actually get Alejandro to take the heatsink off the Super Sega FPGA PCB, which we had seen a few times and told you was lacking in substantial parts, and what we could see underneath was just absolutely a mess. Once Alejandro actually had to show a close-up of the PCB, pretty much anyone out there with any sort of electrical engineering background, PCB design, or just hobbyist enthusiast was able to say it is missing a ton of components that would actually make it work. And the eagle-eyed among you were even able to identify the fact that the HDMI port, the pins had solder bridges on them, so when they were saying that it was outputting over HDMI, we knew 100% that wasn't the case. But all of the missing traces here of the missing components to support whatever the hell that chip is on the middle of the PCB. But clearly we could tell from this stage in time that it was a non-working prototype, but even what Alejandro showed off the board with that heatsink installed, you could just basically pause the video, go over some of the pathing and routing of those traces, and realize that the at least front USB port was nothing more than an extension to the back of the unit. We talked about the fact that this could just be running some sort of software emulator. It could be doing nothing but passing through the signals. But basically we knew very early that this PCB was not actually executing any code. And then we went over the entire pre-order process where I told you before the pre-orders went live, my expectation was he would take the $3 pre-order and then charge the full amount very shortly afterwards, and that's exactly what happened. Within 48 hours of closing the pre-orders, Alejandro and Super Sega FPGA charged everyone the full €420 amount, making off with a little bit over 133,000 euros, which to this point in time are still out there. Not a single person has seen a refund. The money is probably gone completely. Not sure what he would have done with it. Maybe he bought a Ferrari to go with the Lambo. Maybe he got that Ron Jeremy surgery. We just don't know. And at this point in time, other people connected the dots and found out this is the same Alejandro Martin that worked on Cinemartin, an 8K FPGA camera that was nothing more than the similar scam that we're seeing here. All of the money on that, a little over €500,000, completely disappeared in bankruptcy. Then we got to the point in time where he stated that Sega was suing them over the name and they had to switch it to SPGA, and Sega was demanding them destroy all of the prototypes and manufactured units, and we know they didn't manufacture anything because that PCB could never be anything. And that was his current line as far as where the project was going. Sega was banning it, he was losing all of the money, and he wouldn't be able to make them or refund anyone. And how did he respond to people asking questions about what was going on? He uploaded a video of himself from the mid-2000s playing guitar in a music video. I kid you not, this is just what he does. Every time there's questions he doesn't want to answer, he just puts up the most asinine, ridiculous thing you've ever seen on the YouTube channel, and that is supposed to answer everyone's questions like, where did 133,000 euros go? And of course we got to the point in time where we were just claiming absolute poverty because Sega had taken all of the money and all of the prototypes from him, which would make quote-unquote logical sense if later he hadn't said that Sega apologized and actually supported him in making the Super Sega FPGA. He even doubled back on his own story, which inexplicably means, where did the money go? We just have absolutely no idea at this point in time. And again, that's after the Christmas miracle where Alejandro and Super Sega FPGA came out and published a quote-unquote statement from Sega that is the most misspelled, grammatically incorrect pile of horseshit you ever could see. Ron Jeremy here is spitting a tale, a yarn about as long as you can possibly imagine. Trust me, Sega did not send this. Nobody at Sega has confirmed they sent this, but this was the original story that Sega was suing them, and then it moved over to the fact that Sega was supporting them and even asked Alejandro to report employees to Sega for harassment. You would think Sega would know who had sent the emails in the original version if that had actually ever happened. And then there's just been so many different weird videos of Alejandro in motorcycles, piles of games, things that inexplicably make absolutely no sense. And he did go missing between Christmas and New Year's, only popping up at the beginning of January, maybe the 4th or 5th, and he basically stated that he hadn't been able to refund anyone, hadn't been able to answer any questions, hadn't been able to talk to anyone because he had been sick, but he tried to show off this negative balance on Stripe as proof that people had received a refund. But I have talked to now 5 people that pre-ordered this console. It was 3, and I found 2 more people that were able to show me receipts, and not not a single one of them has been able to get their refund. They have seen absolutely nothing from Alejandro, which is exactly what we expected, because we know full well the money is gone. And big thanks to Ian Lee for helping me with some of these videos as well. He's been in touch with Alejandro and got some really funny content. And we even had to go through Alejandro selling his beloved Lambo to basically be able to refund people or continue the project. But as of the time of this video being made, that listing is now gone completely, and I do not think he's sold that Lamborghini whatsoever. It's probably one of his prized possessions outside of his clearly real Super Sega FPGA board. And then we got to the point in time where he sent Ian Lee a video of him in bed, claiming he was at the hospital or had been at the hospital. And I love that Ian Lee just zooms in like this. I will leave a link to his channel below. He's definitely got some fun stuff on there on Super Sega. But basically, Alejandro pulled the I'm sick card, and from there he has not been seen again. So the question is, where did Alejandro go? Did he go back in the kitchen to make himself some more potatoes and shrimp? Did those shrimp give him the food poison that put him in the hospital in the first place? Did he have a bullshit removal surgery to try to actually tell the truth? We just do not know. Maybe he had more plastic surgery to look even more like Ron Jeremy. We will just have to wait and see. But this is the saga of Super Sega FPGA from start to finish as we know it so far, and at this point in time Alejandro hasn't been seen in over 10 days and may never pop back up again. We may have lost our superstar of FPGA development, and the FPGA gaming community will all feel that sense of loss because we lost a hero this week. Alejandro is not here. Hopefully he shows up soon, and if he does I'll let you know. But we are done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.